Our scripture reading is from Song of Songs, chapter 4, verses 12 through 15. A garden locked are you, my sister and bride. A garden locked, a fountain sealed. Your channels water the paradise of pomegranate trees with all choicest fruits, henna with nard and turmeric, calamus and cinnamon, myrrh and aloes, with all the best balsam bushes. You are the fountain of the gardens, a well of living water flowing from Lebanon. Here ends our reading. Thanks be to God.
So, dear friends, today's reading from the Song of Songs takes us on a tour of paradise. I don't know whether you noticed, it is about a garden and about a source of water, and all of that is about it. So let us begin with vocabulary. I said paradise. The English word paradise originates from the Latin word paradisus, which in turn comes from the Greek word paradeisos. And the Greeks, particularly Xenophon, first adopted it from the old Iranian paradaya, or parideia. In the old Iranian language, it can be also translated as follows. The preposition pairi or pari means around, similar to peri in Greek. And daya means something made or built, like a wall, for instance. Therefore, paradaya signifies a place surrounded with a wall, that enclosured garden, like we heard. An enclosure, a garden. This term eventually found its way also into biblical Hebrew, through Greek most likely, as pardes, and it's present in our reading. It's that orchard of nuts there. And into Arabic as firdaus, and influencing many languages associated with Islam. In the Hebrew Bible, pardes emerged relatively late, as I said, most likely through the influences from Greek language. Because in the Bible itself, the order is Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, signifying a garden with a moist or soft soil. I want to emphasize how numerous languages adopted the word paradise from Iranian culture and language, and we will return to it later. This adoption occurred because Persian gardens gained worldwide renown. Iranians elevated ancient culture and religion of gardening to an entirely new level. So let us now observe ancient gardens. And this bas-relief, a sculpture on a wall from Nineveh, is a stone panel decorating a palace wall, depicting a temple garden. A temple stands on top of a hill, distinguished by its architecture and also by the altar. If you look on the path, in front of it is an altar positioned there. Inside the temple resides a patron deity, most likely, or maybe it is a priest there. The hill is adorned with a diverse array of trees, nourished by several streams fed by water from an aqueduct. And it is truly a well-watered garden, as you can see, reminiscent of that Garden of Eden. Our next picture is somewhat more schematic, yet it also portrays a divine garden. In the center stands a deity holding a vessel from which 4 streams flow to 4 springs, and we will return to them soon. Flanking this scene are 2 magnificent pomegranate trees with blooming flower beds surrounding the area. Yes, it is schematic, but here you have another paradise garden. Now, I would like to take us to a trip to a similar garden just few miles away from us. We need not journey to Iran, India, Turkey, or Spain, all cultures influenced by that old Iranian formal gardens. Here in New York City, we can easily visit such a garden. It is called Uttermeyer Walled Garden in Yonkers. It's only about an hour away by public transit and 30 minutes by Uber or by car. Yes, now it is there. And now you see why I called those kind of things there springs. In this picture, you can see 2 of the 4 symbolic springs resembling our earlier ancient depiction. And these springs feed our symbolic rivers, encircled by flower beds and rows of trees and rose bushes. On the shorter axis stands a formal gazebo known as the Sky Temple, while on the longer axis, opposite the entrance gate, lies an amphitheater with a large pool flanked by 2 decorative sphinxes atop of columns. Here it is a little eclectic because sphinxes are mostly Egyptian idea, but it is still the closest we can get to formal Persian garden here in New York City. This is our nearest small-scale version for a formal Middle Eastern Persian garden, originally built by the successful early 20th century lawyer Samuel Uttermeyer. And the Yonkers City Council allowed it to deteriorate, dilapidate over the decades, but efforts are underway to restore them now, those gardens there. So during spring, summer, and even into autumn weekends, you can literally visit paradise. I know that it is in Yonkers. It is almost like contradiction, paradise in Yonkers, but no, it's there. I visit regularly in an early summer and find it deeply moving and spiritually transformative. Because, and now we are moving more from that educational part of the sermon where we laid out the groundwork, more into the theology and the sermon. Because here we have an embodied theology in front of us. It's a mythology, religion, and spirituality in plans. Religion and its teachings are not presented in the form of books or writings or doctrines, but in the form of flowers, trees, fountains, and pools. It is a religion that is present and alive in splashing water, buzzing bees, and fragrances of flowers carried in the breeze. But at the same time, it is a caring theology, caring faith, caring spirituality, teaching us humans important lessons about our world. Those ancient gardens were small models of the world. That is those 4 rivers. If you read Genesis, you will hear and you will recognize that that is the entire world. They represent all the main rivers of the world. Those ancient gardens were small models of the world as such, served as training grounds for the rurals. Gardens were part of the royal ideology and royal training. Kings and emperors often were titled chief gardeners. Just like in Genesis, Adam and Eve, those kings of ancient times were charged by their gods or their deities to be gardeners, to keep and cultivate their realms like gardens. And they were having those smaller palace or temple gardens just next so that they can get that into their brains. Those renowned Iranian royal gardens were a constant reminder and training grounds. In gardens, rulers learn how not only mysteries of different plants, they also learned respecting their differences and various uses. Gardens remind us of the need to pay attention to specific needs of even the smallest plants. Some like dry land or dry sand. Some others are planted in water. Some like shade under trees. Others just being under direct sun. And all that is internalized and expanded. Caring and observant is the goal. If only our politicians received that kind of training, if only before entering, say, the Congress, they were required to demonstrate their ability to care for a garden over several years. And we will come back and we will check, showing their diligence and care to make it thrive and bloom. Every election, I ask myself, which one of the candidates I would trust with my houseplants? Those gardens embodied also the environmental theology, conveying an environmental message, akin to eco-theology. They remind us that our world, our entire planet, is like a beautiful divine garden entrusted to our care. Whatever we do around the world, we should approach it with the same thoughtfulness and patience as a seasoned and successful gardener does in her garden. This is the environmental and spiritual theology embodied in those ancient gardens. And finally, here, especially in America, I must not remain silent about something I have mentioned in passing and talked a little with our children before they left for Sunday school today. Paradise is a word and a religious and cultural concept given to us by the people of Iran. And I know, and we all know, how prejudiced and bigoted many of our politicians are, especially against the people of Iran. Many not realize how much of our own culture, and not only horticulture, but our own religion, Christianity and Judaism, how much of that we owe to this part of the world. Not only paradise, but some scholars claim that we have the Hebrew Bible, and as a consequence, we have the entire Bible. because the Persian administration requested a written form of the Jewish law, of the Torah, that they were initiators of that being codified. That was the beginning of the Bible. Also, the second half of the book of Isaiah was likely written, or almost certainly written, under Persian rule and influence. And you can hear echoes there of Zoroastrian religion there. Next, the law of the year of Jubilee. Have you heard about year of Jubilee? That's the year where regularly, in regular periodic intervals, there was an forgiveness of debts and return of the land to the original owners. And slaves were released. That, friends, was likely lifted directly from Persian practice. We have that recorded in Persian annals. Also, the urgent prophetic sensitivity to justice over against injustice was influenced by Persian Zoroastrian religion, discerning what is right and just from those things which are not. And as we then move over to New Testament times, beliefs in angels and demons flourished under that kind of influence. Many theologians think that it is also a strong influence of Iran over our New Testament and especially Gospels. And of course, eschaton, the final things, the final judgment that is very aching to the teachings of Zoroastrian Iranian religion, very likely influenced by Iranian culture and religion. But all of this would be a topic for another sermon, or maybe several sermons. Suffice it to say that we owe to Iran more than many people realize. Isn't it interesting what we can hear and learn from the biblical love song, embodied theology of love and care for one another and for our garden planet?